All right, hello everybody. Today we are back for another episode of the Performance Pod. We have Dominic, the city, on here today. So just to give a little pre about who Dominic is first, before we get into this, to show his career and who we're talking to. You played 4 seasons at North Central, a Division III program where you raked the entire time. You bat 348 your freshman year. Your sophomore year, you bat 324. Then your junior year, all-region player, I believe, correct?
Yep.
You bat 374, 16 doubles, and 6 homers. Senior year, just continuing on, batting 368. I made that sound like it was easy, but that's a 4-year career that many guys say they don't get to have, and that's an awesome experience. And those 4 years gave the ability for your 5th year to transfer to Indiana State, where you bat 324 with 14 doubles. And I forgot to mention, while you were at North Central, you led the nation or led the team in triples, I believe,
Led the nation, yeah.
and you broke the program record as well for triples in a season. How many
Triples
triples
and
was
runs
it that
scored,
season?
yeah.
How many triples did you have that year?
Me and my teammate were actually both tied for the lead in the country. His name's Luke Lannon. Won a couple of rings at North Central. He's the quarterback there as well. But I think we both had, I want to say 11, but I don't remember the exact amount off the top of my head.
Oh, and then obviously you go to Indiana State and you show you can still hit at the Division I level. You bat 324, the 14 doubles, and now you're at Clemson University for your 6th year. Quite a career you've had, dude. It's really cool to see like the evolution. Like everyone doesn't have like that one road, go to the best program in the country, have 4 great years. Like you've had a journey. I love having dudes on that have a journey and have things to talk about and things to learn about. So there's an intro to Dominic, and let's get into it, man. So first, let's talk. I know this question is asked a million times to you, but for the listeners, you guys played the Savannah Bananas this fall, and I'm guessing it was one of the coolest experiences of your career up to this point. And you yourself made the first trick play in the game. So that was probably like your wow, welcome. Was actually, we'll get into, you probably have a welcome to Clemson moment, but let's talk the trick play. Like break that down. You make this trick play, and yeah, just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, so the day before we played the Bananas, we were practicing with them on the field, kind of just running through the rehearsal of it all, because it's kind of like a show. So you have to like know what's going on beforehand and everything of that nature. And then also we are just having a little bit of fun with it. They're producing some content as well. So we were practicing some trick plays like the weeks leading up to that and things of that nature. And I wasn't good at them like at all. Like it was just like, I'm not going to do this, whatever. There's kids on our team making backflip catches. I'm sure people, if they're watching this, probably saw the video of 4 kids on our team doing the backflip at once, like in the middle of the dance or whatever. That video went super viral. So we were just practicing things of that nature. I wasn't good at it at all, but I remember the ball was hit to me in the moment. I'm like, our coach has a saying to go for no, just like live on the edge of just like playing like a maniac and quite frankly being a little stupid. So I was just like in the middle of my head, I'm just running after the ball and I'm like, yeah, I might as well just try. And I just threw my glove behind my back and man, I caught it and it was an unbelievable moment. It was so cool. I mean, like my heart was racing so fast afterwards.
Yeah, how many people ended up coming out for that game? I mean,
I mean, it was completely sold out. So I think it was almost probably a little over 7,000 people if I had to guess off the top of my head. And then there's
that's
people on like the stadium. There's like a athletic building behind the stadium and people were lined up on top of that as well. So it was a pretty unbelievable crowd. It was pretty surreal.
yeah, that's and so going along with that, I don't know if that was, but like, what was your welcome to Clemson moment? Like, I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the first time I went to the facilities, my roommate Andrew Chufo I was with, and we just were heading to the baseball facilities, and you just drive in, and right next to you is Death Valley, it's the football stadium, like right when you're turning into the baseball line. And you're just like, holy cow. You're just like, unbelievable. I'm like, I'm at Clemson right now? Like, all right. And then you just walk in, you walk into the facility. I mean, if you just go on YouTube and look up Clemson baseball facility tour, it's unbelievable. We got our nutrition lab, ping pong tables, video games, just 3 stories to it all, leads right out to the mud room, the locker room, etc. I mean, it's just it's all been one welcome to Clemson moment. And I still, even now, as it's become a lot more normal to me, I'm still catching myself afterwards when we get some of these spreads after practice and we get just our day-to-day lives and you just show up and there's something new in your locker and things of that nature. And you're just, man, like the gratitude is unbelievable because coming from a Division III school, like you said, and then also a mid-major school, I mean, you just don't get things like that. So it honestly makes it makes the fruit that you get to bear from your labor a lot more satisfaction to it as well.
Yeah, man, that's a great way to put it. I mean, you went through the levels of like, not saying you didn't get anything at D3, and like I'm in the same boat right now. Like it feels probably so good to just like you climb that ladder slowly, and like knowing that you earned everything that you got is like the best part of it all. Like you worked your tail off to get there, and you performed year in and year out, no excuses, and just got the job done. So it's just really cool. And to hit back on the Savannah Bananas part, kind of like, how was your preparation for that? Like, you mentioned the day before. Like, were you guys like just going over like the scenes of what you were trying to create? And like, did you almost like make a mock game and like you guys went through it and like you had things planned out? Or is like a lot of it on the fly? Because I know a lot of people are curious, like, how do they do all these things? And you got the behind the scenes look and you got to perform inside of it. So what was that preparation like?
Yeah. I mean, you can only like it's baseball at the end of the day. You can't script a ton of it. So I mean, it's like the result that you get, you can't script. Like you can't script the home run. You can't script any of that stuff. I mean, there's a time when they all went to the mound, and like when you're little and you're all like going the glove and you're like, who has it? And they literally had three guys in a windup and threw a pitch at me at once, and I had no idea who had it. Like that wasn't planned at all. So I had no clue what was happening when I was in the box, and the catcher's like, yeah, man, I have no idea who's throwing the ball also. So it was just kind of a spur of the moment thing. But a lot that went into it. I mean, we definitely had a plan of what our vision was as a program. I mean, we wanted to get certain things out of it. That's for sure. We wanted to be able to put a certain foot forward. But there was also certain things that we just couldn't control. I mean, the Savannah Bananas are coming into town. It's their production. So we're kind of doing things in regard to the way that they typically would do it. So we're just going along with the flow of what they tell us. And Jesse, I think his name on social media is like Yellow Suit Jesse or something like that. He's always in his yellow banana suit. He came like maybe 3 weeks before it all and was talking to us about it and just giving us a little bit of his entrepreneurship story, which is very fascinating in its own right. And then kind of giving us a little bit of an overview. And then a day or two before he came and talked, 2 days before he came and talked to us again, because he was in town at that time, setting everything up. Then the day before, we practiced with some of the Bananas, practiced all the different dances, all the different songs, and kind of had an idea for the walkouts. Like one of our teammates, Jay Dillard, came out on a horse, so he didn't have the horse there. He practiced that the day of actually, but like we went through and practiced things of that nature. So yeah, it kind of is a big production, but there also is a little bit of it that you practice it, but you kind of just have to be ready. You kind of have to be ready to just go where it takes you and kind of be ready to react on the spur of the moment.
Yeah, no, completely. It's crazy like how they get like do things like that. Like it blows my mind. But you guys are the program to do that now, right? Like
Yeah.
Clemson, that's what you are. And that pretty much is leading into our next question is like Clemson baseball is the mecca of social media in college baseball right now. Like there's no better place to be. I mean, we've talked about this offline. Like you have teammates that, it's like a normal thing for you guys to post things and to show what you're doing and to give the behind the scenes. Cause like kids like seeing that, or even other college baseball players
Yeah.
or adults. Like it is so cool to get the look from what you guys are doing behind the scenes and to how you prepare yourself. So kind of like talk about what the clubhouse is like. Of course, it's probably different than other clubhouses. What the on-field performance is like, and the behind the scenes of like what goes into it.
Yeah. I mean, so the clubhouse, I mean, there really is a culture. I think culture is a very overused word. I think it's a lot of eyewash. Most places don't actually have a culture. Coach Eric Backish was at Michigan before with Coach Nick Schnabel, and they're both unbelievable. They bring contagious positive energy every single day. I've never been a part of a coaching staff like this in my life. And I've had Indiana State had a great coach in Coach Mitch Hannes as well. But just very different styles. I I think this is the perfect place for me for my last year of college baseball. I mean, we really have an emphasis on fun. I mean, today I posted on my Instagram story, it's a quote from our coach in regard to why we don't call our field a field, we call it the playground, and we call that for a reason, because we're supposed to have fun there in order to perform at the highest of your capabilities when you're, I mean, playing in front of almost 10,000 people, playing against some of the best players in the world. So there's a reason there's a method to our madness. It's not just complete and utter chaos, but that's something that obviously, like, we don't really care what people from the outside think about that. I mean, we do it for us. We don't do it for what they think about us. Obviously, we want to build a brand and things of that nature. We want to put a good foot forward. That's very important to us. But at the same time, it's like, we don't care what your perception is of what we're doing. We're going to do what is right for us and our program, because we know what is going to get the results that we want. So just in regard to like our clubhouse, man, like it's your typical baseball clubhouse. There's a whole bunch of different personalities. I mean, whole bunch of goofballs. Like we're just guys being dudes at the end of the day, and we just love baseball. And I mean, we do some very unique things here that bring us very close. We're all about having a very tight knit circle, and we don't just say that. Like, we actually do things. Like this wristband I'm wearing right here is a thing called Team Elite, and I don't know if they have social media or anything like that, but basically the guy will come in and we'll run through like this multi-day training, basically, that's just hours upon hours of like basically bringing us a lot closer, and we get very vulnerable. We talk about how vulnerability is basically a superpower if you use it properly. And Navy SEALs, arguably the most tight-knit and the most well-run operation on this planet, they talk about vulnerability and how it's a strength. So when people are too scared to be vulnerable to one another, I think it's kind of a setback for the program. So we talk about a lot of unique things that never get talked about on baseball programs. And we really, really develop the mental side of things, which is something I've never done before. It's unbelievably fascinating. And the day-to-day life it's super fun. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, man, that you explained that, you couldn't have explained that any better. That question of like how everything goes down. And we've had calls offline before of like being around people that are like-minded as you, and want the same goals as you, and are trying to achieve the same things as you, and are trying to get that same end outcome, which is for you guys, going to Omaha and winning a College World Series. Like, that's a realistic and a real thing to say, and you have to say those things. And I'm guessing that's said in the clubhouse a
No
hundred
doubt
times a
about it.
day, right?
Yeah, no doubt
But I
about it.
just think growing like together as a team, and like being in an atmosphere where you guys like are vulnerable to one each other, just makes things exponentially better, and like makes you more comfortable to be around guys. And the way you're explaining it, it sounds like that's the perfect, Clemson's got that perfect, fit, that how everything's working. And I don't know if it was like that at your previous schools, but obviously something's working over there for you guys. I mean,
Yeah.
you had a season last year. And hopefully you guys get to build off it this year. So that's a really cool part of that. And going into kind of the goal aspect of it, your end goal, as Clemson baseball is trying to going to Omaha. But for you as a person, your life's more than baseball, and you're trying to achieve bigger things than baseball, or whatever that may be. So what's like, let's just go short and long-term goals. Like, what do you want to create for yourself? And it can be baseball oriented or outside of that.
Yeah. Short term, I mean, it's a very good question to begin with, but short term, the biggest thing for me, so I'll kind of digress here and then come back to it. So we do this thing called the classroom, and Coach Eric Bakich, our coached with Tim Corbin here beforehand, under Jack Leggett. And when Coach Bakich eventually went to go coach at Vanderbilt with Tim Corbin, he got the classroom from Coach Tim Corbin. So they do a thing there where it's a whole bunch of different stuff, but it boils down to mental game, kind of just be the betterment of your life, things of that nature. And a lot of it is very, it can be philosophical, psychological, things of that nature. So we do a classroom, and it stemmed from Vanderbilt and Coach Tim Corbin. So we talk about 4 stages of happiness. Level 1 is instant gratification. Level 2 is ego comparative. Level 3 is helping others, basically. And level 4 is transcendence, also known as knowing your why. So why do you play baseball, right? The short-term thing for me is level 3 and level 4 oriented mostly. So I'm really focused on, like, I have a lot of perspective on college baseball specifically, and the journey that it is. So I think I have a lot to give back to individuals in that realm. So that's something that I'm really trying to lean into and flex that muscle a little bit in the clubhouse. I'm trying to add perspective to some of the young studs that we have on our team. I mean, I look around and I'm like, man, this kid, maybe he won't play a ton this year. Maybe he will. Who knows? Because we have so many good players. But the point being, I'm like, this kid's going to be a freaking top 5 round draft pick in the next couple of years. I'm like, so I'm just trying to do what I can to help them be better as well, because it just makes me happy. I try to make people's days better. And obviously in the short term as well, like I want to get out in the field. I want to do and compete at my highest level because like, man, I'm a warrior at the end of the day. Like I want to be in the middle of the Coliseum. Like I don't want to be the person eating a biscuit up in the stands. Like that's just not me. That's never been my personality. Like I want to go out there. I want to go to freaking war. Like that's who I am. I'm just a competitive dude. So like
Yeah.
I want to go out there. I want to freaking win. That's the short term goal for sure. And then long term, I mean, man, like some of the things that I'm really interested in, like I'm addicted to self growth, man. I'm addicted to entrepreneurship, and kind of tied into both of those. Like I'm financially driven as well. Like I have a lot of goals in my mind. Like I'm an entrepreneurial spirit. Right now, I'm most likely going to end up working in like a medical device sales or software sales type of industry to to begin. And I'm kind of looking at that as a way to open up a lot of doors and a lot of different perspectives of individuals. And who knows where it'll take me, but eventually I see myself in a very much so entrepreneurship realm of things where I want to be a creator. I think creating is more important than consuming, and you're doing a very good job of that, man. So I applaud that because it's not an easy thing to do. It's easy, like I kind of said earlier, when you're the person in the middle of the Coliseum, it's very hard because it's really easy for the dude with the biscuit up there to be like, man, like shouldn't have swung at that pitch or like shouldn't have done that. It's like it's not easy to put yourself there. If anyone listening, I encourage you to go look at the quote, the man in the arena by Theodore Roosevelt, I believe. It's one of my favorite quotes ever, and it's kind of like a paragraph. It's almost like a poem. It's beautiful, and it just encapsulates the competitive nature and putting yourself out there. And like I said, vulnerability is a key, man. If you want to be successful in anything, you got to be vulnerable. You got to open yourself up to the criticism because if people aren't hating on you, you're probably just not doing something good enough yet. So I really just I really lean into the entrepreneurship spirit of all those things, and that's why I'm drawn to you as well, man. I mean, I applaud what you're doing. I don't know a ton about your story quite yet, but looking forward to learning more about it. And I'm sure there's been a lot of people in the back of your mind that have been kind of judging you for making content or something like that. I'm sure there's been a lot of people that have, quite frankly, just talked crap behind your back. And it's like a word of encouragement to you and to anyone else listening. It's like, who cares, man? The reason that person's doing it is not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of them. They're doing it because they feel insecure in whatever way. And they're probably just too scared to put themselves out there, whether they're not going to ever say that or not. But that's the truth, the reality. So, I mean, I just want to help empower people and then also build a community of like-minded individuals eventually.
Dude, hit the nail on the head on that one. And I appreciate that. And I think, and again, I keep hitting of what we talked about because we've had phone calls prior to this, and this is a repurpose of a previous podcast from Chris Williamson, and we were talking, and it's like people will judge you for whatever you're trying to create, and it's the people that just don't want to do what you're doing, like they don't have the confidence to create that, or they don't want to be judged themselves. But it's the people that step outside of those boundaries, and we talked like the lonely chapter realm of like you're trying to create something, and personally I believe that you are like you achieved those things that you were trying to create, and obviously you're trying to achieve more as a person, but like there's a lonely chapter in things when you want to be better as a person, but you don't have the outcomes yet to say you have done these things and to express to others that you've done these things, but you can do these things, but you just you can't hand them the sheet of paper and say, yeah, I've done this, or you know what I mean, like show them the stat line, I've done this. There's a million different realms you can speak upon when thinking of it, but that lonely chapter, you're just trying to get to the next level, and it's a tough spot to be, but once you get past that level, the amount of like I don't even know the word success that you feel at the end of it just beats. It can't be beat. It's the best feeling ever. So
Yeah.
I think just people learning and like understanding that people are always going to say something about you, good, bad, and different, and you have to learn to take everything with like positivity. And you express in your content positivity, and it's such like a good feeling to even watch your things. It's like expressing the positivity is what creates good culture in a way, and builds people together and creates good things. So that's awesome that the way you explain that. And to get
Yeah.
into go ahead, talk.
No, and I wanted to kind of speak a little bit more on what you said about the lonely chapter because I think it's such an important thing to hit on. I mean, dude, like I felt that in a major way from my Division 3 school to like my Division 1 school. I mean, even when I was just at my Division III school, I never even thought about transferring. I mean, there's so many people that would think about the way I went about things and my mindset and the way I went about my day-to-day life. And they never said it to my face because they don't have the guts to say it. But there's so many people that I knew that they were like thinking something about me. I knew they were talking about me. And it is what it is, man. But and the thing about it is that for anyone listening that feels like they're in that area of their life, you can't become too obsessed with trying to prove these people wrong because it's a slippery slope to go down mentally, because you can almost get too fixated on the wrong things. You're too fixated on trying to prove something that, quite frankly, will never even be proven to this person. Because, like I said earlier, the reason that they're acting that way is not because of you, it's because of them. And when you realize that, that's important, because I went from a Division III school. My Division III coach told me I would not even be a 200 hitter at the Division I level one time. And I went and I hit above 300. I was hitting 390 at a point 3/4 of the way through the season with a on-base percentage over 500. So there's going to be people that you thought were in your corner that will be the complete opposite and show their true colors. And I mean, I've never really said this online, but screw it. I mean, the dude, my coach told me I'd be a 200 hitter at the Division I level if I was like lucky, basically, and told me that I would basically just be able to be a role player at a low end Division I school, like highest case scenario. And I did the complete opposite of that. And he also hasn't talked to me ever since I committed to my prior school and unfollowed me on all social media 2 years ago. So the thing is, it's like, it doesn't matter, man, because you can prove those people wrong. And the reality of it is, like, they don't even care. Like, and there's a beauty to that, though. You have to like change the way you look at it. And going from like a truly philosophical standpoint to almost talking about a meme as I'm going to right now is kind of silly. But I'm sure we've all seen that famous meme where they just change the captions, where it's like two dudes looking out the sides of the bus. And one of them's looking out and it's all black and white and like sad. You know what I'm talking about or no? And the
Yes,
other
yes.
side's all sunshine and rainbows. And it's like, nobody cares about you at all. And there's the one guy that's looking at it like, oh no, no one cares. But there's the other guy looking at it like, sweet, that means I can do whatever I want and no one actually cares at all. No one cares if I succeed. No one cares if I fail. And I can tell you that. I can tell you that because I thought that, so like, sure, like a lot of people will reach out to me and tell me good job and things of that nature. But at the same time, it's like, they're just being like nice. Like they don't actually care that much. Like they'll just tell me good job and they go on with their day, as it should be. They shouldn't be occupied with my entirety of my success, just as I wouldn't be with them. Like we all care about ourselves. That's just how we are. So to think that like somebody cares a lot about you is you're kind of being a little bit of like a narcissist. And that's a strong word, but it's like people don't actually care about you that much, man. So just go do what you want to do. I promise you, it's not that big of a deal. I promise you it isn't. And a couple months from now, no one will even care. And a couple years from now, they won't even remember. And eventually, we're all going to die.
Yep.
And so do what you want, man. Put yourself out there because vulnerability is your superpower. You will not achieve anything you want to without being vulnerable. Like I did not go to this level I didn't go to the Division I school knowing I was going to be successful. I knew that there was a chance that I wouldn't even sniff the field. But I was okay with that. You have to risk things. You have to put everything on the line to get anything good in return. So I just want to throw that bit in there.
Yeah, dude, that's perspective to the max. And how do you explain that? Like, there's no other way to put it. Like, and the thing is, going back to your coach, like, you know, him saying and I don't know how much I should talk in this, but him saying, you know, he unfollowed you, whatever, and he probably sits in that locker room at their school and talks about you because where you are today.
Who knows, man? I
You know
mean,
what I mean?
I think I've been blacklisted so much in a point that I don't think the coaching staff talks about me at all, which I think is crazy, to be honest. Someone that's broke, I think I broke 2, maybe 3 records there. I don't know for sure. At least 2, I know.
Yeah.
I think 3 actually. But anyways, and like 3-time all conference, 2-time all region, 1-time preseason all American, like went down to Indiana State and now Clemson. You think you use that as marketing for your program, but hey, everyone lives and gets to make their own choices.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, and that's college baseball's it's a different world. Like some people,
Cutthroat. It's
Yeah,
cutthroat and there's a lot of egos.
that's a real like, and you saying the vulnerable part, like you as your program talking about that, I think that's like it's such like a huge thing of like your coach telling you guys to be vulnerable is like one of the greatest things you can do because you're next to guys like say whatever position you may play and you're behind this guy. You don't want to you know not be friends with that guy, but there's always like an
Yeah, I
ego in
mean, no,
everything in
of
the game.
course, dude. Of course. That's real, man. That is very real on any team, on any team.
And and obviously like we both play baseball and we correlate it to baseball, but sports is ego driven, but baseball is to a level and people say a lot of things like behind your back that you don't even know about in the game. And I think just being like a tight knit group is like you can be, I think, and this might be a hot take of saying something, but and I know you said like culture can be eyewash. A lot of programs don't have a culture, but they say they have a culture. Their culture changes every year. It's not the same thing. But I think a team can be better when you have a group of dudes that all care for each other, and they don't even have to be the best group of guys, but they're all knit together. They want the same goal. The guy behind them, they're cheering him on. The guy in front of them, they're cheering him on. Instead of 9 All-Americans on the field, it's just a different vibe in the clubhouse, on the field, everything that you do. It's just it's so different, man.
Most definitely, dude.
But we'll hop into, I get into my page has a lot of like training, performance type, and we're getting into the self-development round today, which I said before that I wanted to get into because we both love that kind of stuff. But getting into like your weight training and what you guys focus on, you yourself, because you have your TikTok, you have a large following on TikTok with your training, and things along that line. And I know you did more like in the past of your training, but you can talk about that and also what you guys do at Clemson training wise.
Yeah. I think a lot of it, I think I have a unique perspective on it all, and it's still developing. Like, I don't think there's a right answer to anything. I think anyone that tells you there's one right answer, I tend to proceed with extreme caution when someone tells you there's one right answer to things, specifically training. Um, but in regard to me and a little bit about my just story in general adds more to it is like at my Division III school, we didn't lift as a team. We didn't have any weights program or anything. We didn't have a weights coach. We didn't have anything. So you could go, there was like an athletic facility. It was terrible. And you could go and like lift, but I just got a membership at a local gym and I just started lifting there. And I did it the way that a lot of kids kind of do it. I went on social media. I tried things out. I found things I liked. And quite frankly, a lot of lifting for me was therapeutic. It wasn't even baseball oriented. It was just something that gave me a lot of purpose. It's something that made me feel good about myself. And I would just go because I wanted to feel good and look good. And I just had fun with it, dude. And I just kind of took off with that. But I also saw that getting stronger made me better at baseball. So yeah, I mean, but then I'm an extreme personality. And in order to get to Clemson, you kind of have to be extreme, especially going from a D3 to a D1. So I tried a whole bunch of extreme things. I mean, I freaking was powerlifting for a while, and I, long story short, tore my meniscus just trying to squat like 500 something pounds like an idiot my sophomore year. So I missed the fall, but I still played the full season there. But yeah, man. So I've tried a whole bunch of trial and error, and here at Clemson, our weights coach's philosophy is unique. There's a lot of there's a lot of talent that comes into Clemson, as you can imagine. So
Yeah.
his philosophy is that a lot of dudes don't necessarily need to get stronger; they need better shapes. And what he means by that is just different types of patterns that you can basically create on a baseball field. So when you look at a way that high level people perform, there's a lot of similarities within that. So his goal is to basically help people manipulate the shapes per se to get a specific outcome on the field. Or we'll do these things called Maven assessments, which we're one of the few college programs they work with, but they work with mostly professional teams, where there's things of like, just like your efficiency in your playing, like how you're utilizing your force, what type of force you're creating, etc. Things of that nature. I'm not super well versed in this all, but I do know that like the goal is to clean that up to then create a better path, as you can imagine, or create more efficient force for the type of muscle mass that you have. So for example, someone like me, I'm a strong guy, but there's a lot of guys on our team, honestly, most that like will produce better numbers than me because they use their bodies more efficiently than me. So his
Mm.
goal is to help people do that. And obviously there's a lot of caveats to that all. First, like me, for example, I have a problem with like my left hip, which is my back hip as a lefty hitter. I can't create specific shapes that other people would be able to create. So there's a lot of things that go into that all. But my philosophy as what it is like, you got to get strong, man. Like most kids talking, like for the level of baseball that you probably are aspiring to get to, all the stuff that I was talking about is overcomplicating it. Like you need to get strong first, man. Like if you're not strong, you're not going to be able to do anything. I'm just being honest. Like most likely, unless you're just gifted or have amazing resources that have taught you how to use your body to the most efficient way possible, you need to get stronger. That's just the reality of it. Look at the dudes that are in the SEC and ACC, and they're gonna be like, "Yeah, I'm too small. I'm not strong enough." Like there's a bare minimum requirement for that. And then also, man, like the one thing I could do if I went back to it all is like you got to take care of your hips. Like you got to stay mobile. Like that's the number one thing I would say for me is like I had a lot of like hip problems or hamstring problems, whatever it may be, that basically more likely than not boils down to being immobile in certain spots and opening myself up to injuries. So just making sure you train to get stronger, but you still stay athletic and keeping that mobility as well is very important. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that, but just messing around with that and if you have the resources, finding a good trainer, that can go a long way for young aspiring players.
Yeah, I think there's a million, especially the game of baseball. There's so many different ways to train, and people saying this is the right way and this is the right way. But there's like a level of like functional strength you have to be at a certain level. And I think like going back to you talking about your strength coach at Clemson, like most every guy on your team has functional strength. Like every guy on your team is a dude and they're there for a reason, right? So he's like trying to push that extra envelope, I think, and kind of what I got out of you. He's trying to get that extra out of you guys, using science, using technology, using these things to make you guys better. And like you being the stronger dude and like you seeing another guy that's not as strong as you doing something like that, it's like, why? So like the
Yeah.
numbers sometimes are good and bad in a way, you know what I mean?
It's
But
very eye-opening. Yeah, and at the end
yeah,
of the day, just another note to give out there is like if you're training as a team with people and like, don't get like it's a weight coach's job. They kind of try to push you and create like an environment where they're like comparing people, but don't get caught up in that stuff, man. Like compete against yourself because competing against other people is superficial and egotistical, and it's not going to give you sustainable results in the long run, man. Like you have to fall in love with competing against version of you from yesterday and being a better version of you that the next day or when you're training. So just focus on being better than yourself. Don't focus on being better than Johnny Two Shoes next to you. Like who cares what Johnny's doing, dude? Like be better than yourself.
yeah, it's that you versus you mentality of in anything in life, and we're talking the weight room, but it's you versus you, and you're always. I like the way you said that. You're always trying to get better than the person you were yesterday, and that's what life has to be, and that's what stacking days and doing things like that just makes you a better player on the field in the weight room. And then moving on to kind of your habits. Guys that play baseball, any sport, are so like not habit driven. Maybe that's not the right way to say it, but like you have things that you like to execute day to day, week to week, and that's what makes you who you are. You have the discipline to do things, and you're good within yourself to make yourself better. So, what are some like the habits that you have in the game or outside of it?
Yeah. So for me, I think it's a lifestyle I've adopted in regard to like self-improvement and being habitually driven in the things that I do. I think it kind of all can tie in together. Like some of the things I do in the morning uh can trickle over into making my baseball experience better indirectly or directly. But I'm very big into the realm of self-improvement, like we kind of stated. We've talked about that a little bit. Someone that kind of changed my life completely was Andrew Huberman and the morning and nighttime routines that go along with that. I know you kind of wanted to talk about like sleep and things of that nature later, but there's like a lot of habits that go into that as well. And some people might think it's a little bit of overkill, but again, I don't really care about your opinion in all honesty. But the the way that I go about it is is very different than the person next to me. But I wake up, I get out of bed right away. I don't want to scroll on my phone. I don't do anything of that nature. Wake up, I'm out of bed less than 15 seconds later, ready to kick someone's butt right away. I go into a cold shower for 3 minutes, or on all transparency, like there's certain days I won't do it, and I'll do like hot for a little bit and then just finish with like 30 seconds cold. But more days than not, I'm doing all cold. Just do your normal hygiene care and things of that nature. Make my bed every day. Go into making breakfast. Then for me right now, like I said, I'm really interested in the realm of entrepreneurship along with my like interviewing processes and stuff of that nature. So I've been spending a lot of time with that in the morning. I get some good deep work in then most of the time once I finish my schoolwork, because I'm still getting my master's of business administration. So there's a lot going on in that area as well. But when I have the time to dig more into that, I'm really focused on that and just kind of being able to push the envelope in that realm as well. But then I'll head to the field every day. And when we talk baseball things, I mean, I care about how I feel myself more time, like all the time. But I also will give myself reasons. Like I'll let myself go eat something somewhat unhealthy because I'm an athlete, dude. I'm burning the calories. I don't care. Like it's not the end of the world. You still need to fuel yourself, and you're still a human being. So I try not to be a complete robot about it all, but I try to stay pretty diligent with it all. And then in regard to when I get to the field, like I'm at early work every single day, man. Like I'm always hitting extra in the cage with the coaches. Our coaching staff here is unbelievable. They're always in there an hour and a half before our practice or whatever, our team meeting or to lifting, whatever the first event is for us that day. They're always in there an hour to hour and a half early. Lately I've had a little bit of a hamstring thing, so I'll head in, I'll take care of my treatments or whatever exercise I need to do. Then I'll head out, I'll hit for 45 minutes or so every single day before practice. And then we'll do whatever else we have baseball activities. If there's a lift, we have classroom. Then we head out to the field, do our baseball activities. Then any type of treatment afterward I need to do, just hang out with the boys, things of that nature in the locker room. Like you got to be fun as well, have some fun as well. And I have night classes, so that kind of stinks, but those will take up a lot of my time for my MBA. And then my nighttime routine of it all is like, to me, like I have a nice pair of Roka's the brand, blue light glasses I got for Christmas. Santa Claus got me a nice pair of those. It's finally a nice pair backed by science. So that's really good because I care a lot about that stuff in my circadian health. So doing that, and then also the supplements that I use before bed that are like recommended and backed by science for Huberman are L-theanine to kind of help chill you out because I'm a high-strung individual. I'm anxious, I have racing thoughts, and then magnesium L-threonate, and then GABA every single day, or GABA, I think it's the correct way to pronounce it, before bed. So those are the things that I'll use to kind of help me. And that's kind of the habits that I go about every day. And it doesn't need to be anything profound, man, but it's like you just do that every day for heck 3 months straight, but man, 6 years straight. Like look where it can take you. It can take you from a D3 to Clemson. So heck, man, like just keep applying these things in your life and you're going to see benefits in the long run.
Yeah, the consistency of it. And you pretty much answered my next question. I was going to ask you your morning and nightly routine, but you nailed it on the head there. But it all comes down to consistency and doing things day in and day out that you don't want to do, that you didn't want to, whatever it may be. It's hard, but in the long run, it always pays off. So obviously my next question was, do you prioritize the nightly routine? But there we go. And then lastly, honestly, our last question, this was a fantastic episode. And my finisher, as always, is, if you're reading a book right now, what is that? Or I should say, what's your favorite book you've read?
The one that I'm finishing up right now is called The Courage to Be Disliked, which is awesome because it kind of ties into a lot of the things that we kind of talked about today, because vulnerability is a skill, and having the courage to be disliked by others is awesome. And what the book kind of just talks about, I suggest anyone to listen to it. I'm pretty sure there's an audiobook for free on Spotify for it, so if anyone wants to listen to that. But it's a great read. It kind of takes place of a setting. It's based around this thing called this way of thinking called Adlerian philosophy, which is very fascinating. And I'm not going to even try to encapsulate it in a couple sentences because that's above my head. But the book, the setting of the book is basically like a psychologist and a student having dialogue over time with one another. And it's just explaining a lot of things. And he's kind of explaining why he feels the way about certain things that he does. And the student is kind of like rebuttaling back to somebody like you would in a high level conversation. So it's a very fascinating book for anyone that's trying to like expand their mind and the psychology behind things and different philosophies to it all. But the biggest takeaway that I've had from that, man, so far is that Adlerian philosophy kind of talks about task and knowing a lot of the human happiness lies in the task that you have at hand. And it even gets down to the point of knowing a lot of the human stress that we have and the problems that we have in our mind lie in the disordering of task. And what that means, or the disordering or misordering. And what that means is not knowing what to do or thinking that you need to do a task that isn't your task. And one of those tasks, hence the name of the book, The Courage to be Disliked, is your opinions for others. It is simply not your task to know or to even think about what somebody else thinks about you, because you're just going down an endless rabbit hole. So to worry about what somebody else thinks about you is misordering your task. And that's going to cause disturbance in your mind or your day-to-day life. So if you're able to understand that, you then have the courage to be disliked, because you will go live your life completely fine, do the tasks that are applicable to you and where you want to get to without getting distracted down these quite frankly, pointless distractions of what other people may think about you down these other side roads when you just got to be going forward. So I really, really like that book in regard to wiring in your mindset and kind of understanding. It's a very nuanced way of thinking in regard to other people's opinions and how to go about it. So it's high level stuff, but I think it's very good stuff for anyone that really cares about diving into that all.
That's awesome, man. You explained that. I might need to read that now after you explaining it. But yeah, man, that's a wrap on the podcast. I really appreciate you coming on, dude. Best of luck this season. I mean, we start in what, 2 weeks? Not even two
Yeah,
weeks.
man.
So
Yeah.
it's time to play the game. So good luck this season. Appreciate you having on, and yeah.
Thank you, dog. Right back at you.